Hey there, Griever Gang. Welcome back to Griever Productions. For those who frequent the channel, you know that I am a huge fan of musical theatre. In fact, Jesus Christ Superstar is one of my favourite shows of all time. And there's some very good reasons for that. The music is incredible, but not only that, the way that Lloyd Webber's songs are written are incredibly, what's the word? I'm not actually sure exactly what the word that I'm trying to look for is, but essentially, it's always a case of he is trying to really get the most out of his singers. He likes to challenge them in very interesting ways, whether it be odd keys or odd time signatures, a whole bunch of things. I want to have a look at this one. Somebody used our Google form, which is in the description below, and submitted this one. And I do apologize. I don't know how to pronounce the singer's name. Is it Jinho? I'm not entirely sure. If I've gotten that wrong, I completely apologize. He's going to be singing the song Gethsemane from Jesus Christ Superstar, and this is such an incredible song. We've reacted to Dan Vasc on this channel performing it, and it is an incredible song. And something that I always look for in a performance of this song is that they understand that this is absolutely an emotional crescendo for the musical itself. As a little bit of a backstory, this one is sung when Jesus realizes that he is going to be betrayed by Judas in the Garden of Gethsemane. And it is his last minute pleading to God as to, why are you putting me in this position? I've done all I can. Was this not enough? And it is an incredible, incredible piece. So there's a lot that I'm looking for. So, I am going to be very picky with this one, so I do apologize if there's anything that sounds like a criticism. If there is something, it's for good reason. So, before we begin, please do leave a like on the video. It really does help. If you had not subscribed, highly appreciated if you did so. Quick thank you to our Patreon members listed here. If you would like to get on this list, there is a link to the Patreon in the description below. But without any further ado, let's have a listen to, I believe it's Jinho, performing Gethsemane from Jesus Christ Superstar. Oh, it's not in English. Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to turn off, just before we continue, I'm going to turn off the captions here because they are annoying me. And if this is a direct translation, I can tell that they're already very wrong. If somebody understands the language and can let me know whether or not it is accurate, and perhaps lyrics have been changed for the purpose of rhyming or anything like that, please do let me know. As you guys know, I go into these with as little information as possible, which sometimes comes across as ignorance. So please do let me know. But so far, I'm very much liking this. Something that a lot of singers tend to do, and this gentleman's not doing this here. What a lot of singers will tend to do is come into this song with full blast, to the point where they don't really leave themselves anywhere to go. And I don't necessarily mean full blast as in volume-wise, I mean emotionally. And that is equally important as well. You definitely need somewhere to go, especially because this is the moment of the song where he's kind of just playing over the events in his head and going, okay, well, yeah, there's this. Almost like if you're preparing for an important conversation and you kind of brainstorm the ideas that you want to cover first, or like a work presentation or something like that. It's that kind of initial brainstorm moment of the song. And he is very tenderly doing it. He's really pulled that vocal back. You can hear the kind of breathiness to it, where it's just that it's almost like an exasperated sigh is the start of this song. He's portraying this very, very well. So let's continue on. Okay, so something I want to touch on here, and forgive me if I'm wrong in saying this, I don't believe I've seen this gentleman before. He may have been part of one of the groups or something that that I have looked at in the past, so I do apologize if that's not an entirely correct statement. But without knowing, I can't completely judge on what he's doing. But what I do want to bring up, and something that is interesting here, is the way that he is breathing. So what we try to avoid... So he is breaking a rule here. He is breaking a singing rule here. And I'm not completely upset about it. And the reason for this is... actually, I'll explain what he's doing first. So I've readjusted the camera angle just to kind of give a bit of a demonstration. I'll move the mic a little bit closer to myself. So basically what we do when we breathe in, when we sing, is... actually, you know what? Let me even take it a step further back. So, for somebody who's not a singer, if you said, okay, take a deep breath in, what they're going to do is this. And what that does is, you notice straight away, the shoulders rise, and if you do it, you can actually feel the muscles here tensing up, and we want to avoid that as best as we can, because you don't want any tension in this area to impede the vocal cords. So, the way that we combat that is to breathe here. A lot of teachers will use the term, use your diaphragm. For those, again, who frequent the channel know that I hate the saying. I will do eventually a whole video on why I hate that saying, but the too long didn't read. The TLDR of that is a lot of singing teachers that say use your diaphragm don't actually know what the diaphragm is or how it works. But we'll get to it. But what they mean by this is to breathe using your core. So what happens is, when you breathe in, just the stomach comes out. Now, part of the training that we do for breathing is to say, okay, that's definitely a start, but by doing that and only expanding the stomach, you're using probably about 75 to 80% of your lung capacity, and the rest of it is restricted. So what we do in that case is we raise the chest, which sometimes makes it look like the shoulders rise, but it's not engaging these muscles the same way as if we breathe like this. And you'll be able to feel it. If you do it now, you'll be able to actually feel it. This gentleman wasn't breathing using his shoulders to begin with, but now is. And I can only theorize based upon what I'm seeing that it is a purposeful choice here in order to change the vocal and to change the emotion, to almost force it to sound a little bit more tense due to the emotional stakes rising. I can only hazard that guess, and I can only speculate on that, but it is very interesting. So I'll be very interested to see how he goes with that continuing on, because that will actively hinder in the higher parts of the song. But let's see how it goes. That was a proper breathe in. And you can actually hear it too. You can actually hear the difference between the line before. Let's see if I can go back and get some good timing here. When he raises the shoulders like that, as opposed to when he breathes raising the chest and using the core, you can hear the difference. The difference is, when doing the breath in the proper way, it sounds more full, naturally. It's interesting that he swap it in that specific moment, which is why I'm thinking that it is completely intentional where and why he's doing what he's doing. That's where it breathes properly. See how that sounds different? Interesting. Okay, interesting melodic choice and change there that I quite like. I'm going to go back, and the reason is, not being in English, obviously the phrasing is going to be different here, and I've got to admit, Going back to the I'd have to know, my God, doing that in English, I can only imagine that the phrasing of that outside of English would have been a nightmare, and that's maybe why he's doing it in English here. So I'm just listening for the phrasing when he swaps back. I think it's interesting to hear.
Wanna see my God, wanna see, I wanna see my God. 내가 죽어 얼마나 더 대단한 걸 갖게 되나요? 얼마나 더 위대한 걸 이루시나요? I'd have to know, my Lord. Have to know, I have to know, my Lord. Have to see, I have to see, my Lord. Have to see, I have to see, my Lord. 죽어서 난 무엇이 되나? 죽어서 난 무엇을 얻나? Have to know, I have to know, my Lord. Have to know, I have to know, my Lord. Why should I die?
Okay.
Why should I die? 보여줘요 내 죽음이 갖게 될 의미. 알려줘요 내 죽음이 갖게 될 영광. 헛된 죽음 아니란 걸 보여줘 제발. 난 거부조차 할 수 없는 존재인가요 왜?
Okay, I have to give props. I do have to give props. He definitely knows what he's doing vocally. So what I was saying before, that he is actively breaking a rule, again, I believe it was intentional, but I could be wrong on that. What is interesting here now is that he has gone more for technique than he has emotion, where a lot of singers will do the opposite. A lot of singers will throw technique out the window a little bit and just lay it bare in this moment. And it has a very different effect when you're listening to it. But the emotion that he is putting in there is also still very, very good. Very, very good. So let's go back a little bit here and let's just kind of go through.
이란 걸 보여줘 제발. 난 거부조차 할 수 없는 존재인가요 왜? 좋아요. 죽을게요. See how I die.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a phrasing thing.
See how I die.
Okay. Big props for that. Big props. It is not easy to hold that note for that length of time, and I'd be interested to know if this is just a backing track that he sourced from somewhere, or if somebody has put this together as a band. If it is actually, because that is another thing with this song too. If you're performing it with a live band, it is so much more dynamic than if you're doing it with a backing track, which is the same for all songs. But that ability to play off one another with the timing, especially on that in that part of the song, is so important. If you're doing it with a backing track, you have to be perfect. He's done a very, very, very good job in hitting those marks where he needs to, and that is quite brilliant. I'm going to listen to that again. So here's a little trick with this one as well, and this is something that I don't know if this gentleman is doing it this way for this reason, but what a lot of people will do is see how I die, and they'll hold that note as long as they can without the vibrato, and then add the vibrato on the end when they're starting to run out of breath. Because what will tend to happen when you start to run out of breath, it starts to get it's harder to maintain a note. So by adding the vibrato, you're actively kind of combating the fact that you're unsure as to whether you're hitting that note properly or not. again, speculation as to if he's doing it for that reason or if he is doing it maybe because he's heard so many people do it that way, then that's kind of the emotive choice he's made, because most other people make it look like an emotive choice. Again, it's a speculation thing, but either way, however he's done it, why ever he's done it that way, he's done it very well.
죽을게요.
Let's have a listen again.
See how I die. See how
He also does a different note to a lot of people too. My brother comes in. Coming back down after that note is really difficult, so I want to hear he does this.
흔들리는 마음
Nice, nice, nice.
지쳐버린 몸
Good choice to go down the octave there.
지나간 시간이 마치 영원처럼 느껴지네. 끝내야 할 나의 운명 당신 손에 정해진 운명
Okay.
뜻하신 대로 날 죽게 하소서. 당신 주신 이 독자니 힘을 되어 날 적시고
Interesting.
꽂혀서 숙이소서. 지금 내 맘 변하기 전 지금 내 맘 변하기 전
Nice. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back. What I was saying before, as I was kind of talking over the music there, is going from that, like, really kind of belted out higher note, I die, and holding that through, and then bringing that down for that next section where it all kind of calms down. Then I was inspired. What tends to happen there is if you've gone too hard and you haven't allowed yourself to reset, what a lot of singers will have happen, and it's such a this is why Lloyd Webber's songs are so interesting, because again, how I was mentioning, Lloyd Webber's songs layer challenge upon challenge, is that a lot of times that, like, a singer will come into that first line of that next section, then I was inspired, and somewhere their voice will either cut out or crack, and it will sound something more like, actually, how do I purposefully do this? Then I was inspired. You hear how it kind of cut out there? That's what tends to happen when somebody goes too hard and isn't able to reset in that moment. And he did a very, very, very good job of it. The arrangement of this is very interesting too, where the last note, before I change my mind, it kind of isn't held for as long in this version as the musical version, or most other versions that I've heard, which tells me that this is some form of track that's been obviously pre-recorded, that he's singing to, is what I mean. I'm not saying his voice is pre-recorded. I'm saying the music, just so people don't misunderstand. And it would have just been nice to really hear him hold that for longer. And again, that's not his fault. That's completely on the music there. So let me hear that again.
내 맘 변하기 전 지금 내 맘 변하기 전
Yeah. Would have been nicer to hold it on a bit longer, but again, not his fault. He's got to stick to the track. And what will tend to happen if you're doing it with a band, and this is why I'm such an advocate of live recording with a band when it comes to doing theater songs, is, you know, unless you're doing all of your own instruments, right? Is that when you get to that point, so basically what will happen in the musical, you sing, whoever's playing Jesus will sing that note, now, and then the band will hold on until the Jesus starts singing, before I change. So on the before, I think that is the cue for the band to actually come in to follow that vocal. So when it comes to using a backing track for especially a song like Gethsemane, unfortunately you don't get some of those nuances. Again, not a reflection on him. He has handled that as best as he can, and he's done a pretty damn good job with it. All right, so final thoughts on this one. Look, as I said at the beginning, I'm going to be picky when it comes to the songs that I am passionate about, that I have a solid grasp on, and that I have almost like my own belief system on how they are to be run. I'm going to be very picky on them, and I don't want any of the pickiness that I had in this video to seem like I didn't like this at any point. This was really well done. This was a true masterclass on choosing the different moments when to be completely technically pristine and when to be emotive. It is very, very well done. He balances that incredibly well. And I think that truly, if he wanted to do theatre, I don't know this gentleman, so I don't know if he has done theatre, if he does do theatre. Don't start coming and you won't start coming. If he hasn't, I think he would have a very good shot in it. So definitely food for thought. That's all I have time for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe, do all that sort of thing. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what we did here today, for as little as $3 Australian per month, you can join us over on Patreon and become one of our tiered members and join the wonderful list of people here. If you're into gaming, I also have a gaming channel that I have recently gotten back into. And also, on this splash screen, you might see something a little bit interesting. More news on that coming soon.